Sure. So, very good afternoon, everyone. I think it's really great to have an August panel representing so many different industrial sectors of India today with us, from passenger vehicles to tractors to electronics to also heavy engineering equipment. Once Mr. Joycer from Bombardier is also able to join us. Uh, as we heard in the earlier sessions also today, I think tooling is the mother industry and hence is one of the most important ingredients if you have to convert any raw material into a required shape. And given the kind of endeavors or the kind of visions the government has stated in terms of becoming self-reliant or Atmanirbhar, tooling is going to play an increasingly important role as we move into the future. At the same time, we are also cognizant about the fact that despite being amongst the top three, top four markets in several sectors like automotive, in terms of tooling, we still lag behind at the 12th rank in the world. So there is considerable amount of ground to be covered over there. And therefore, in today's panel discussion, we would be touching upon various aspects on how we can improve the current state of tooling in India, so that if going forward, the tool makers can cater to the requirements that are coming from the respective industries, and also if there is something that is expected from the government to chip in, so that as a whole ecosystem, tooling can be made more vibrant in the country. So with that, I think we can start with the panel discussion on the cross-industry perspective on tooling in localized manufacturing and expectations from the tool makers. By way of introduction, we have Mr. Ganesh Mani, Director Production, Hyundai Motors India Limited with us. We have Mr. Akshay Sangwan, Director Development and Commercial, International Tractors Limited, known by the Sonalika brand, with us. We have Mr. Bhupender Saharan, CEO of VVDN Technologies. And we are also waiting for Mr. Rajiv Joycer, Managing Director, Bombardier Transportation India Limited, who will join us in a short while from now. So a very warm welcome to all of you once again to this panel discussion. To kick off the proceedings, maybe we can start with you, Mr. Mani. While the entire automotive industry bore the brunt of disruptions caused by the COVID-19, global automakers, which had a high degree of part production or import localization in a few COVID hotspots to begin with in China, and then later on in the other parts of the world also, faced greater risk and pressure in the supply chain. So what are your views in terms of criticality of strengthening tooling localization in India so that, in future we can have a very highly resilient supply chain with regard to sourcing of tooling as well? So your views on that, please.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, Ashim. I hope I'm audible to all of you. My fellow distinguished panelists and ladies and gentlemen who joined this conference, it's indeed my deep sense of pleasure and gratitude that I have been invited for this conference. Of course, COVID-19, overall 2020 as a year has brought in so many, difficulties in a way that possibilities as well, and a whole lot of disruptions locally and globally right from the beginning of the year. But to be precise, if you talk about my company of Hyundai being truly a global company with inbuilt process of, the way how do we take care of multiple location and multiple sourcing solutions, we could manage from a meager of 100 per day of production to the level of 2,500 per day, which is absolutely a pre-COVID nice era in a short span. Thankful to, first and foremost, our customers who repose faith on us, and with pent-up demand which comes up in a larger way. I hope this continues next year also. We are not seeing much more, light after the Q1 of 2021, but we wish it continues. And also thankful to all the, channel partners, including the tooling industry, who helped us into really make this way. The most important thing is that, having said that, COVID managing in one aspect, but it also gives a possibility of reviewing our own mechanism, accelerating the focus on further process of localization. What we can made it as not only a localization, we call it as a locals local, which is within your own vicinity. How better is possible, because India is also not away from red and green and oranges. And as a part of the Atmanirbhar Bharat, mission, as Honorable, Minister also said, I think a very special focus also would be required. And my talk would specifically, related to the session, since it's the session on tooling. So the question on how do we make, this tooling industry as a part of our mission of making from a current level of $400 billion to the level of 1.25.
It's like we lost Mr. Mani.
Yeah, I think we lost him.
Sorry, I think I'm back now.
Yes, you're back now.
So I think
yes.
there are some technical glitches. Somebody is trying to come in. Right? So, 70% of the tooling import is, due to the strong level of, eco-industry systems not being there, it is being imported, which has already been talked widely before the conference, during the conference also. But the good point is that machine tool market has got 12.54% of, CAGR. It is therefore, I believe, like to learn from the existing source as well as the machine tool manufacturing from the perspective of the most talked about, not only from China, which is a myth, but also from Germany, South Korea, Japan, and more specifically Taiwan. So who extensively developed and locally and unique base, be in terms of, interfirm technological diffusion, incremental innovation followed by the MSME, which is very important in India as well. More than 80% of our workforce are working in MSME, and how far they are able to do it, how far we are going to emulate the same thing here. And also state guided, skills, requirements and how people are actually skilled upon also. So the industry itself is so important that if people say that if you want to make, something, you have to start from the tooling. So it's something like a first and foremost step which we need to work on that. So having said that, if you see from a type point of view, which is, metal cutting machines and metal forming machines is becoming a type of machines. And also in terms of technology, CNC machines, wherein each of us is, apart from increasing our, manufacturing domain, we also need to go for technological upgradement, which is around 89% of the growth is coming from CNC machine tools itself. So the tooling industry is already in the right path, of most of the converting from most of the sales offices to the warehouse to the actual manufacturing center. A couple of examples of, Gleason in Germany, a giant, gear processing technology company has already come in. So apart from, OEMs alone, these kind of industries are going to give a whole lot of other opportunities also to the tooling industry in India. I sincerely hope. But having said that, there are very, local companies also, like Ace Tools is a classical example of indigenous and self-reliance in terms of tool manufacturing and also machine manufacturing. We also may need more and more entrepreneurs who we can continue to work. But encouraging such local industries and supply chain are very critical to ensure seamless production process to enable the flexibility in planning a new vehicle launches. I'll quickly talk about that also. But the most important thing when we talk about criticality in localization is concerned, but the big question is, do we have the best, class in machines, or also precision tools, skilled manpower, technical know-how to cater to the rising segment, not only for automotive, where Minister specifically talked about very extensively, but also aerospace, electronics, healthcare, general mold and high-end, in turn, which needs a precision and high quality. So are we in a position to really make sure on that area? There are a couple of critical factors which if we can work upon, I believe will lead it to a right path. And those are like, for example, broaches and swagging cutters are manufactured with a patented surface treatment process, and cryogenic treatments which offer unparalleled performance compared to the contemporary broaches. Are we really investing ourselves into that? Or our industry is really looking into that is one of the areas. Carbide powders and HSS cobalt rods are still sourcing challenges in India, which Mr. Sharma specifically requested to Minister as well, which are most important, imported though the tools are processed enough. So can we actually work on something on that also? Carbide recycling is a very capital intensive, so still it's one of the areas where our distinguished panel members can really talk about. Coating technology and large die manufacturing, to be precise, are we still able to reach the level of all the other countries is another important thing. But I also have certain amount of key learnings what other countries have done to work in terms of how, machine tool manufacturers basis in terms of Japanese government, how do they show off the trade show, Jimtop they call it as. And also very importantly, the way Taiwanese industry has really come up with the so-called M-Team, a group of 34 machine tool builders come to OEM and give a holistic solutions. I think that one area I believe in India also we can do. Instead of working on separate machines, Tagma can actually take it across in a big way that, combined together, if you give us solutions, things can always be possible. Because at the end of the day, like if you see about our own mother plant and all of the country of South Korea, which is they always take a first mover advantages in terms of how quickly heavy industries and shipbuilding industries can actually move across. So we have a history which is already available with us. How we quickly maneuver it together with the support of OEMs. We are always there. Not only we 160 more vendor partners are available with us, we'll be definitely helping you to reach this situation. To give a numbers, we are the 9th largest machine tool manufacturers. How can we go to the first level? And also, success is knowing that your contribution is what it helps collective. Minister Saab has already said about the collective work between the tooling industry together. I think how far we can do together. My final point is about how we are creating our own talent pool of youngsters to really move across to make this happen. Something called as I always call in terms of Imagineering, which is imagination and also implementing. So that two gap can be filled up by strong engineers with a strong built-up of industry as well as academia collaborations. Keeping all these together, I believe we can definitely, keeping these critical success factors to move it forward. Thank you. Thank you, Ashwin.
Thank you, Mr. Mani, for that very comprehensive and well-rounded view on the tooling industry, starting from skill requirements, technical upgradation, machine tools, industry academy, and also touching upon the key areas in which the tool makers need to invest. And as you rightly said, the Taiwan story is really something that can be emulated in India as well. I'll come back to you later in the discussion with some follow-on questions on that also. But moving across to you, Mr. Sangwan, since you represent one of the fastest growing tractor manufacturers in the country, and tooling is becoming an integral part over there as well. My question to you is, with Sonalika's constant focus on technological upgradation and innovation in farm equipment, please shed some light on the need of tooling localization for enhancing manufacturing competitiveness in the farm equipment sector, because here too you are dealing with an extremely price sensitive customer. So the kind of investments that you make in tooling finally also bake into the end product price. So how are you dealing with this aspect?
Yeah, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Ashwinji, what you have asked is something, it's one of the most important topics which we are discussing these days. India is fast becoming a hub for economical tractors. It is growing, and most of the major global players have now put up operations in India for the workhorse segment of tractors. And we being one of the largest, we are the largest Indian tractors who are exporting overseas, currently to over 110 countries. We also feel the same thing when we go overseas. We see the competition, we have to compete in the market with them. The demand for newer products, for country specific, there's a huge need for us to develop wide variety of drills and at the same time be competitive in the economical workhorse category. Has helped us. Luckily for us, Indian vendors have come up very well. The whole ecosystem of component development has come out very well. The important part now is that the vendors have the right tools to realize what the designs are required into final finished products. And that's where we feel just come in. For any new project which we develop, there are two areas we find. There are very few Indian tool makers who are up to the mark to produce the whole project for us. One area is definitely the design and development area, which needs to come up. There are, again, very, very few tool makers in India who can deliver end-to-end product or a project for any OEM in India. So if a project comes out, there has to be a lot of hand-holding which happens. And the tool makers in and development side will give their capacity.
Sorry, I think we lost you in between after end-to-end development.
Yeah, so end-to-end development, what happens is that a lot of times when we deliver a project, we are asking for a project, we feel that there has to be a lot of hand-holding which happens with the tool makers. Now, in some of the overseas tool makers, we have observed that that hand-holding is not required. It happens very automatically. There are a lot of feedbacks which come in from their side, and we incorporate them. Second area where we feel that Indian tool makers need to really work is on scaling up. Currently, we feel that the scale is slightly on the lower side.
Hello. Yes, we can hear you now.
I think we lost.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we lost you in between. You said scaling.
Yeah, scalability is also very important. So if you come out with a new project, there are 50 tools which have to be made. Unfortunately, today is the scenario where we have to divide it amongst 4 or 5 tool makers in India, which will be required in the coming days at least, that they scale up their capacities to take up larger scale projects, not only for domestic players, but for overseas players. As Mr. Amani has already mentioned, there is a model which has been proven very well overseas, which can be replicated in India. And that model largely runs on not only domestic market requirement feeding, but also on the global feed. A good example of it comes from one of our partners. Yanmar is our equity partner in our company. It's a Japanese tractor manufacturer, and they decided to develop a new model within India. And when we were developing those models, we proposed to them that the dies and tools should be made in India. They were a bit skeptical. They wanted it to be done elsewhere. But we gave them confidence. We took them to the top of the chart, Indian tool makers. They assessed them. And when the project was delivered successfully, the positive response was such that for their global projects also, which were not to be launched in India, we started seeing an inflow. They started requesting us that if those dies and tools can be made in India or not. So definitely we have the capabilities. There are 2-3 things where we need to work upon, where things can improve. And it will help that in the overall scenario of being an economical tractor, being an economical workhorse, this tool making becomes a very, very critical point. A large portion of investments goes in it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Akshay, for that roundabout perspective on the economical aspect of the workhouse tractors, and therefore tooling being a critical role there. And also, you clearly pointed out the 2 areas for tool makers to work on. One is end-to-end design and development without much holding, and so scaling up is needed. And at the same time, you did talk of a successful case study with Yanmar also. That means in pockets the capability is there, but one can emulate the other and then have this industry-wide in the tooling ecosystem. So thank you very much for that perspective. Moving on to you, Mr. Saharan, since you represent a very different industry here on And I also have seen that you've also set up a whole tooling park. So to you, the question would be, from the perspective of an original design manufacturer for cloud-managed IoT solutions, there are some critical tooling requirements in PCBs, electronics engineering, and manufacturing. So how equipped do you think are the Indian tool rooms to meet such requirements to boost local manufacturing? Why this question also becomes more important is because, even as a whole, in electronics manufacturing, we've been lagging behind some of the other economies in the world. Your perspective specifically on tooling, how much are we lagging, or, are we almost there? That's the question to you. Yes, please.
Thank you, Ashwin. So I think definitely I'm from a different background. I'm not from the automotive industry. VVDN is present prominently on the IoT, cameras, networking, and telecom equipments, which we are manufacturing, designing and manufacturing. So we started the tool room. We are in the business from last 13 years, and we used to import most of our plastics from China. And then a year and a half back, we said that we should set up a tool room here and then do all the plastics here. So if you really want to know where we stand as a country on the consumer electronics, nobody is able to design this phone here. Nobody in our whole country does not have capability to design the Apple phone, basically. This is the hard fact. We can be proud, all are proud on ourselves, and we are all, but today that is the hard situation, basically. If you hear the Apple founder things, what he says, why they go to China. So earlier there was a myth basically they go to China because China, the labor and everything is very cheap. But that's not the reason what he says. They go to China because they are the best in tooling. They are the number one in the tooling. And tooling, from my perspective, from last 2 years we are doing the tooling here, this need a different attitude basically, which we as a country or we as a people miss it basically. When to reach the accuracy in 0.0001 mm accuracy when you need to go for the consumer electronics, especially for the mobile phones basically. So we are not there, and we really need to do a lot of efforts. VVDN is doing some effort to reach to the where we can do. Today we are doing for consumer electronics almost 2.5 lakh parts every day basically. VVDN is doing that. But we are not able to achieve the quality of the level what Foxconn tool room does. Or what the Flex tool room does in Taiwan and China basically. So we are very, very far. And what is missing? Why we are not able to reach to the level where Foxconn and Flex tool room can design the best tools for the consumer electronics? I think one is especially definitely the lot of investment is required, and VVDN has done almost 100 crore investment only on the tool rooms right now. But still, the attitude, and to deliver the best thing basically, and get into the very, very minor details, lot of tool designers, lot of the mechanical designers, lot of industrial designers, that talent really need to brought up basically. We are not there. We maybe assume how many cell phones are getting sold in India every month basically. All tools are coming from China, Taiwan and Korea. I don't know even 1% tool is getting done here for the cell phone industry. 99.9% tools are coming from Korea, China and Taiwan today basically. So a very, very strong focus is required. We have taken a step, did the investment into the tooling side for the consumer electronics. We have been very partially successful so far, but we are very new in the tooling. So 2 years is not that too much of a time. But we think VVDN will take another 3 years when it is able to do a tooling of the Apple kind of grade basically, or when we can do Samsung kind of mobile phones and Apple kind of mobile phone, the tooling for that. They are the examples, and long way to go, but definitely lot of from the industry side, a lot of efforts is required. More tool room need to get set up here, and we really need to understand what Taiwan and China did to reach to the number one in the tooling, and then the path we have to follow basically. So that's what I will say.
Okay, Mr. Sarand. Yes, thank you for putting it right out there that there is a big gap that needs to be closed. Maybe I just have a small follow-on question for you there. So we do see that in say automotive, some tool rooms are also making skin panels which need high accuracy, right? But why do you think it's very different when it's coming to cell phones? That you're saying almost no tooling is being made in India for any of these.
So the complexity. I'm not the master on the automotive side, but I definitely know doing for the consumer electronics and especially for the mobile phones kind of tooling. This really need a great expertise and a great attitude basically. And what China and Taiwan, they started this doing around maybe 1995, 1996, and they take 10 to 15 years 10 years practically to reach to the level. In 2005, they started doing the world-class tooling. They took 10 years to reach there. The accuracy and the guys, other guys will be able to answer, but when you open a mobile phone, basically, you shall see the complexity, how you do the fitting, how you do the matching between the two parts and everything. That is much complex than the automotive, a little bit more space to do multiple things. And I'm not the right person to comment on that. But I 100% know that for mobile phone, we are doing almost 0% tooling in our country right now. Whereas we are manufacturing so many, Samsung is manufacturing, Apple is manufacturing, but all the tools and most of the material still comes from the China and Taiwan. I don't have to answer what you are asking, why we are not able to do consumer electronics if we are able to go to automotive. But I don't have the answer of that basically, but maybe the other person will be able to tell. They understand the automotive very well.
Understand, Mr. Saran. All right, thank you. Understand. It's probably on account of the high precision that is required that it's being done right now. Coming back to you, Mr. Mani, you have another question here. So, we also see one more change that is happening. So, product life cycles are getting shorter. That means refreshes, facelifts are becoming more and more commonplace. At the same time, product portfolios are also expanding. In your case, also Hyundai, a much larger product portfolio. If we include Hyundai, Kia, it's an even bigger product portfolio out there. And this is only set to increase with also, say, alternate energy vehicles coming in. You already have the Kona and maybe few more products coming in the future. So really the gamut of tooling that you have to focus on is going on increasing with this increase in complexity of the product portfolio. Is that also somewhere driving a push more towards localization because, now you need much more tooling volumes locally than maybe if, we go back a decade or decade and a half when you could have a global model, just, some tweaking and it was in India. Product life cycle was also much longer as it is now. So your perspective on that?
Well, I think very interesting perspective from question as well as the perspective from Mr. Bhupender. I also would like to touch upon certain points what he was also talking about. But coming back to the current level of the events, like for example, everybody talks about 2020 was a year of surprise, but we have surprised the entire market by highest number of models and highest number of changes which we have brought in. We brought in as high as 11 different models with the 3 full model changes of Aura, Creta, which is ultimate use SUV, and also i20, which is a new one, which is a premium compact hatchback. Each one of the products are having its own waiting list to really cope up. And for the first time in India, after many years, manufacturing is being viewed a lot of importance because it is the sales demand is much more higher, which indicates that there was always a need of making it quicker. Like the way you said, product life cycle has to come down. Product life cycle coming down comes in various aspects, from the level of a designing, the way how do we do it, and also the kind of a prototyping, how does it happen, and also putting it to a real mass production level in the 3 level areas. So from the design perspective, a whole lot of new technologies and digitalization bring in a little bit of changes. But the most important thing is the way how a prototyping and also manufacturability comes into picture. So I'm very happy to say that we were able to reduce by 20% of our, this particular time, with a whole lot of advantages of the way we work with our tool makers, the way how we imbibe the technology into the way prototyping in terms of 3D, type of a prototype components, reducing the cycle. How do we really do this happening? And also a whole lot of, interconnectivity between the way how we work with our vendor partners. So when you see that as an aspect, so it always gives a huge amount of impetus to really give a lot of focus from a level of a test match to the One Day International, the way how we speak today, and also from a level of a T20, wherein a whole lot of new players have to really come across and move ahead. Yeah. So and also, as you said, the entire auto industry is getting changed from a level of IC engines to a whole lot of electronics come into picture. So it's not only a mobile has got a lot of electronics. It's in fact automobile has got more electronics than maybe a mobile has got in itself right now. People say that Intel inside, engine outside. So everything is, all those kind of electronics have already been integrated into a whole lot of new things coming into picture. So having said that, the entire industry is also going for a big change in terms of alternative energy vehicle, which government of India has been really focused on. We have technology of electronics, electric vehicles, and also we are also developing a locally made our own Indian customers an electric vehicle separately. Apart from that, hydrogen fuel cell vehicle, which is also going to be coming sooner or later to Indian part of customers. So again, after a few years, definitely a flying car also will be a close reality in India as well. The point is, unless otherwise the entire tooling industry also keep changing along with the pace, it is not possible for us to really convert this into a reality. So, we have been working closely with our vendor, our own total partners. Unless otherwise it comes at, value proposition wise, cost perspective, it is good. The customers are not going to come back to you. So localization along with the local manufacturers is going to be a real order of the day. But there are certain points, like if you talk about the last 5-6 years, we have done from a 40% of a tool manufacturing, utilization to the level of 80% right now. So we have players of more than 40 good vendors who have worked along with us, who understood the entire process. Actually, later on, it moved also in a big way. But the most critical thing is still study says 70% of the tooling imports are by OEMs due to the absence of, as I talked about, strong tooling ecosystems not existing. Still larger dies. For example, when we wanted to replace a die, we wanted to take a chance, as Sharmaji was talking about during the inaugural session. We wanted to really post faith on them, but the most important thing, customers will not wait. We need to reduce the time to market very quickly. So we really need to really compete on that aspect. So we may not be able to have the luxury of delaying furthermore in that. So we definitely will go an opportunity. How far we are able to match these two things in terms of cost and timeline is very, very critical to do that. Jigs and fixtures is another tooling industry where it has really got a high potential. Very lovely players are there in India. We really would like to go. For example, recent one of our project has got 20% of our localization, jigs, we were able to do it. But we wanted to really take it across to the next big level possible. See, I've also learned one important thing is that when you have a capabilities, and COVID is one of the inflection point I always would say, that when there was an opportunity for our people to showcase their possibility of installations, our people were ready, but still as a practice, we were always, coming from the other countries. But COVID put a stoppage to that. Our people live up to that expectation. Our own, vendor partners and our own Indian, the engineers who are able to do it. Now everybody tasted the success of it. Now from a local to global, we are going to go. So my only suggestion is that if we start working now, by 2030, when the auto industry itself, to be precise, would like to go to a 1 crore mark, which I'm 100% sure will definitely reach with the way how the government policies and the way industry is looking up to. I think by next 5-6 years, I think we'll be able to reach the level of the highest level. So foundry molds, for example, these are all certain areas where you need to have larger amount of collaborations to move ahead and continue to work upon. But unless when you develop a tool for auto sourcing of a component, you have a lot of players. But when you come to the sourcing of a tooling for a powertrain equipments, for example, a machinery, most of the machineries are still coming from German, Japan, or Korea, wherein cost-wise and the technology-wise they are much superior. So we are going towards a lot of general-purpose machines. This gives a huge amount of opportunity for our own tool makers to have a cost advantages of converting it to a huge, volume up possibility. So I believe that, building up technology in a matched manner and also converting this into a real reality and also converting this as an opportunity and with a patient game, I'm sure we'll be able to do that. But at the end of the day, I always say that we have to raise our standards so that, the entire universe will definitely meet us there. That's what my strong request to tooling industry. We are going to work closely with, as a OEM, we are going to work closely with the industry also to take it forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mani, for that perspective. Clearly, the last thing that you said is really going to be the mantra going forward as well. Coming to you, Akshay, we also see that, tooling was needed in tractors for all the traditional components, like, you would need it for making the casting molds, for forging dies, for the engine. Now we also see increasingly styling is becoming an integral part of tractors. It's no longer about just the two simple headlights. We see, HIDs coming in, also the way the bonnet is shaped and things like that. So styling is becoming commonplace. That also means then probably slowly yet steadily refreshes like they're happening in the automotive industry will also start becoming more and commonplace. Yeah. Do you think this kind of a trend is going to set in? And if it does, then that means, just like we were hearing the perspective from Hyundai, even for you, you'll need to have new tooling every now and then. And in your case, since you're also exporting to say 110 more countries, where again, you might need to tweak it for each country, that means there's a huge volume of tooling that's going to come in. With that, do you think there is really an opportunity out there for tool makers to, capitalize on this trend? And you also looking at localizing the tooling in this regard?
Definitely, Ashanji, what you have said is true. Within my career itself, if I was to say, I have seen tractor bonnets being manufactured on press brakes, going on to simpler tools, and now getting into deep draw components. And they must be one of the most deepest drawn components which I have seen now in the automotive industry. There has been a very rapid change in the tooling demand coming from the tractor industry, and it would continue to grow. Different factors to it. One of the primary factor, of course, is the aesthetic part. The aesthetic part being appealing is one of the areas where everyone is working. Tractor is no longer seen as a commodity or a utility product. It is also something which most of our customers take pride in. So aesthetics is becoming very, very important. The second part also, which we realized when we went overseas, is our design also represents an image. It is the first thing which presents the product and says that this product is well engineered. There has been a lot of time and devotion which has gone into detailing of the product, and what you see outside is something what you will get inside of the product also. So from that perspective also, design became very, very important, and that transition from design to a physical product, tooling became the main component in that. So that's why in the recent years there has been a great focus on tooling part for the refreshments. Not the design will continue to change. There will be rapid design changes which will happen. What will also happen is that we, as tractor manufacturers, we will expand our range of tractors which we are currently presenting. So far, India was a low horsepower tractor industry, mainly consuming it for itself. It was up till now, it was largely a sub 50 HP category segment. Now it has slightly grown to sub 60 HP, and it will continue to grow. For overseas markets, we are already producing 120 HP and further. And the larger tractors which are actually running in large volumes are above 200 horsepower, where no one in India is currently producing those tractors. So we are filling up those gaps, both in the front side as well as in the back side. There are smaller tractors also which are coming into play. There were no tractors below 30 horsepower also earlier which were there, but now we are seeing 20, 25, 15 horsepower tractors which are coming. So that range will increase. The rate at which refreshments would be required would increase. And plus, on top of it, as the exports market grow, each country dependent requirements will also come into play. So all this put together, I do feel that in the coming years, this requirement is slated to grow exponentially. So all there is a dearth of very good tool makers. There are a lot of tool makers in India. There is no doubt about it. But as both Mr. Mani and Mr. Bhupinder has mentioned, that they need to scale up to the requirements which are coming and which will come in the future. So that future readiness is very, very important for them.
Got it. So clearly there is an opportunity, but will that opportunity meet preparedness or not is for the tool makers to, think and, get that preparedness in there for that. So thank you very much, Akshayji, for that perspective. Coming to you, Mr. Saran, you are one amongst all of us here who, also has set up a new SMT line and mechanical tooling park, which was recently inaugurated in the first week of November. Could you share some insights on, how this tooling park is going to then, make up for some of the deficiencies that you were just talking about, and in turn also drive towards the self-reliance mission of the government?
So yeah, essentially all these things, the setup what we have created is again for the consumer electronics, the networking equipment, and the telecom equipments basically. So 5G is the one where I think most of the world is fighting before the COVID and during the COVID and after the fight. So we are coming out as probably one of the top 5 companies in the world for the 5G basically. So all the tooling for the 5G, whether some of them is plastic, some of them is the die casting or extrusion, everything we are planning to do in this plant here basically. So network wireless. We are selling the wireless access points and the routers in the country today. Most of the towers which you see around, every tower will have our product basically. So all the tooling, all the injection molding, everything is happening from this tooling part only. So I think we didn't think we can create probably in 3 years maybe 1 lakh people facility here. Today we have probably 6,000 to 7,000 employees in our company, and out of that we think at least the 5,000 will be the injection molding and the tool makers basically. So we are putting a lot of investment on that, trying to learn a lot of things from Taiwan and China, and definitely whatever we have in India, trying to get the talent and see how we can reach to the level where where the whole world can consider us, that we come to India not just for the cheap labor, but for the best quality on the tooling also. What they have the perception for the China today. But this path is very, it needs a lot of attitude change in a lot of our engineering people. So if I don't know, when we hire mechanical engineers from the very good colleges, whether from the IIT or from the other institute today, they consider that tooling is not a great job, high class job basically. That is also there, but only thing is, if you see today, as everybody said before me, today most of the thing is mobile phone is about only 3 things: look and feel, how you hold, how the camera works basically. These are the 3 features which sells a mobile. First thing is how it looks, right? How fancy the mobile phone looks. And thus the youngsters, the talent need to understand that basically anything in the consumer electronics, the first thing is how the plastics and how the mechanical looks like. Then only everything else, what are the features and everything, then we go from there. So a perception in the youngsters and the talent need to change. The tooling is a very high-end job. It's not a low-end job at all basically, because tooling defines the success of the product today basically. So that attitude change need to bring into the people from good institute, whether from the REC, from the NIT or another, the mechanical engineer from there really need to come and do the world-class tooling, and need to have the faith that tooling is the best job basically. It's not a second-class job anymore. That's how the talent need to be brought up. But yes, there are the ample opportunities. The consumer electronics selling, last month we did our almost $7 billion of the import we have done basically in the last month. And our export was $900 million. $900 million of export for consumer electronics and $7 billion of the import last month basically. So we are very way behind. And tooling has to play a bigger role. Today, if you see any of the facility which started manufacturing the mobile phone, still a lot of molded part and a lot of tools, all from the China, Taiwan, and the Korea basically. So this trend need to change. Youngsters need to think that the great talent need to think that tooling is a very high-end job, because this defines the first feature of any consumer electronics. The look and feel defines the first thing. So the attitude need to change, and we are behind this basically. I'm not going to live in this halfway through. If you get into this, we need to come out very clean. It will take 3 years for we begin to reach to the where we can say yes, we can do the tooling like the best consumer electronics companies in the world, like Foxconn and the Flex of the world basically. 3 years it will take. We are on the path. We are 9.5 out of the 10, and we really need a lot of talent to achieve our goal. That's what I will say.
All right. Understand. Thank you, Mr. Sar. And I think we're almost out of time. So just before we sum up, I request each one of you to say, what are, say, some 1, 2, or 3 things that you think are needed, maybe from your company side, your industry side, or from the government or the tool maker side to, really transform the situation in the future. So maybe we can start with you, Mr. Mani, and, we could just very quickly hear those last summing.
I think it will be more or less summing up of what we have already discussed and what I've already we spoke it earlier. First and foremost, that we as an industry, we are open, definitely. But we don't have time, and also a cost competitiveness have to come from you. So for that thing, the entrepreneurial skills and the skilling up has to come from the tooling industry. That's point number 1. Second thing is that we will open our own venues, the way ministry even has pointed out a single person agency. Each and every industry can have these kind of venues. That will anyway happen. Third and fourth important thing is you are a 15,000 crores industry, which is likely to grow at least 3 or 4 times now. So there is a huge amount of latent potential which can always be taken across. From an industry point of view, we have also been saying, like, especially automotive, the electronics part is one of the most thing which comes as a import substitution. So in case if you want to really become Atmanirbhar Bharat, so we have also been requesting on various forums separate kind of a ecosystem for electronic industry as such, which is dust free, wherein we have an entire talent pool of available. We have an economic and local industries work together to really develop a talent pool, and also investors to really start working on that. Earlier point of time, it used to be a difficult process. Now that we have got regulations in picture, we also need a whole lot of volume comes into picture, and also a new ecosystem of auto industry of the electric vehicle and also hydrogen fuel cell. So these are all pretty new. All the existings will have to really gradually take a backseat. So I think this is another opportunity where people can work together. And as I said, this is a real right time for bringing back the focus and to really increase the score what Minister Sir has already given to the industry to take it to the next level. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mani. Akshay, your perspective on that.
Yeah, so as I've also already mentioned, there are just 2 things where immediate requirements are there: skill and scale. Definitely skill is required in design and development. We have the know-how, but yes, we need to produce more skilled manpower to take the product end to end and complete the project. Second is definitely the scale. If the scale is there, there will be larger confidence, bigger projects can come in. I'm sure most of the Indian OEMs have some or the other tie-up with overseas OEMs also, from where they can rake in business. Of course, that confidence has to be given by the tool maker that they can deliver those projects. So if these 2 things are in place, I don't foresee that there will be any dearth of business from there.
Right. Thank you. Mr. Saran, final words from you.
Ashwin, you said to me?
Yes, I said to you.
Yeah, just on what Mani sir said, basically on the electronics, Mani sir, we are super strong. Like you guys are super strong in the mold and everything. So I mean, we today shipping from 2-layer to the 20-layer PCBA hardware on the electronic side. At least 3 lakh PCBA we are manufacturing and shipping to across the world. Basically, we have created that ecosystem on the electronics manufacturing very strong. Basically, we only like into the mode of the day we make the mobile phone. We will be able to repeat the success of the Apple. If we are able to do the mode of the mobile phone, that is my last test of my life, and that is where I want to achieve the success. Basically, if I am able to achieve that, trust me, we will beat anybody in this world. Basically, anybody in this world. And electronics for us, what VVD has created, I request all of you to visit our facility. I can show you the virtual tour. We have the world-class facility on the electronics manufacturing and electronics design. So that level, what is there in the Flex and Fox and other part of the world, we have achieved on the electronic side, basically. At least the VVD Energy company. Definitely more yet to be achieved. We are on the path of that. So our attitude is changing slowly, that we need to get it done and we'll make it happen, basically. That's what I will say.
All right. Then I would like to thank all of you for this wonderful panel discussion. I think there's been a plethora of ideas that have come up, and they're clearly great takeaways for the audience today. And thank you all very much for sharing your perspectives and for your time this afternoon. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jai Hind.
Bye.